Well, hey now, welcome to Fitz's Electric Bar. Today I'm going to talk about a few things. I'm going to start off with a book that I just finished reading, a music autobiography. Probably two-thirds of the books that I read are music autobiographies or about music. Biographies, autobiographies, or about a music scene. I enjoy that, just like I love reading liner notes. And just finished a book that I really enjoyed, and so we'll talk about that. So the book that I just finished reading is Last Chance Texaco, autobiography of Rickie Lee Jones, and came out a couple of years ago. And the title comes from a song off of her first record. I don't have this on vinyl, but her self-titled first record. And this was a real blockbuster. It's got the song "Chucky's in Love," which partly probably because of overplay is not really one of my favorites. But one of the things I liked about Rickie Lee Jones right from the beginning is sophistication sounds like snooty, I guess. But her arrangements were always interesting. There's always tremendous like moments of kind of sadness or melancholy in her music. Both the way that she would play the piano and play the guitar. And I'm not a music I don't know everything that works behind the scenes in terms of minor notes and things like that, but really interesting arrangements. She's not just your standard singer-songwriter, definitely kind of crosses over into jazz, into kind of beat stuff, which is sort of jazz as well, Broadway, and then traditional singer-songwriter stuff. So Rickie Lee Jones. So Last Chance Texaco, one of the things I've been doing lately is I've got a huge collection of books, and I started to realize that, I don't really need to be collecting books or acquiring more stuff. I'm acquiring vinyl, and I'm trying to acquire little of anything else if I can. So I'm going to the library, and sometimes I have to wait a while if it's a popular book. This one didn't take too long, and it's just fantastic. So I really enjoyed this. What was it about this book that I really enjoyed? Well, she talks about her childhood, which normally I find not my favorite part of a book. Hearing about the parents and the upbringing, I recognize that it shapes the person that becomes the artist, and it's an important part of it. But I just find, hearing about second or third generation older, generally not all that interesting. This one was actually quite good. She did have a challenging childhood in terms of the way she was brought up. Parents kind of came together and also separated a few times. She had a brother who was in a terrible motorcycle accident, and it affected the rest of his life in terms of lost, I think it was a leg, and had brain damage. So, a lot of sadness. But, she mentions in this book, and I agree with her, that all families have, I guess, their tragedies or their challenges. And a lot of it, I think, is how you take what's going on in your family. You can have the same family, three different people, like three siblings, let's say, four siblings, whatever, and they can all have a very different take on that. There are a couple things that I really loved about this book. One of them was she talks about being a woman in the music business and how challenging it was. I think she said some really interesting things, and this wouldn't be just specific to women, but in particular, women would be affected by this. And so there's a quote from the book that I really thought was cool, and it really stuck with me. She says, "Some critics simply ignored me. Others compared me to Joni Mitchell for the superficial reason that we were both blonde women with guitars. Critics didn't cite blonde-haired Stephen Stills to introduce the blonde-haired singer of A Flock of Seagulls. There is still a long-standing sexist attitude about women's appearance. It was sloppy thinking and writing to automatically group Joni and me together, and that sexism diluted both of our unique musics and personalities. This wasn't a cakewalk. There was only one chair left for the woman musician at the big table, whereas the boys-only room had plenty of empty chairs. Comparisons insinuate that neither party is unique or can create unique work." That last part is very interesting to me. I've known musicians who have bristled at comparisons, even if those comparisons have been to bands that were really good. I used to work with a band in Toronto, and they were compared in the late 80s, they were compared to REM. And to me, that was like the ultimate compliment. But they did not enjoy that comparison. And I think this last line insinuates that neither party is unique or can create unique work. The moment you get compared to somebody or another band is the moment that you're in a box, right? And you're being compared to and limited by that comparison. So that I've never heard it articulated so well. I always used to wonder, why would an artist be upset about being compared to someone great? You know, there's the whole Bob Dylan, you know, Bruce Springsteen, Steve Forbert. Why would that be a problem? Well, it really is limiting for sure for the artist that's being compared to this, you know, other artists, no matter how great they are. So that to me was quite interesting. She talks a lot about her time in breaking out. So she basically came into being as a star during the very beginning of the video world, you know. And her label, I think it was Warner Brothers, created a kind of long form video, and it was a huge hit. And of course, in the early days, record stores were looking for content, as well as, she doesn't mention MTV specifically, but they were looking for content. So anybody who jumped on that early and had, you know, an appealing look and appealing sound was able to take advantage of that opportunity. So she was everywhere, she said. And, you know, and then she talks about getting on to Saturday Night Live. And she had that thing we hear about with Saturday Night Live, which is kind of a showdown with Lorne Michaels and I guess the show about what she will perform. And she wanted to play the song Weasel and the White Boys Cool, I believe, was the song she wanted to play. And they didn't want that. They wanted another song. I think that her take was that they found it too somber and kind of a downer. So she played Chucky's in Love. I'm not sure what others. And she played that song. I think the song she wanted to play, she played, but it was a battle, and it got very close to her saying, "I'm not gonna perform." Literally hours before they went live. So that was kind of cool. But she also talks about the excitement of performing on stage, and just the way she describes the nerves, the excitement, the thrill, the drama of just what it would be like to be doing that, and recognizing that your life is perhaps going to change forever. I mean, this was a big breakout for her. And then she talked about her tours, and one of the things she talked about was touring Europe for the first time and being in Germany. And she describes one particular show where, you know, the audience didn't know what she was singing about. I mean, because the language wasn't their first language. And she didn't understand why they were whistling. I think they wanted her not to talk between songs and just play the music, and she didn't understand, and she's got kind of a stubborn streak in her, and so she stood up to that, and there a riot ensued, and it was quite terrifying for her, and she had a big falling out with her manager on how he managed that. And so these kinds of stories were really, really good. And then she also, famously had a long-term relationship with Tom Waits, and a shorter-term one, I guess, with Dr. John. So she gets into the relationship with Tom Waits. It's not totally complimentary, definitely, and I don't think it's sort of a kiss and tell. But she sort of talks a little bit about Tom Waits in a way that makes you a little bit disappointed in him. And I guess it's not fair because everybody's got a perspective on a relationship, right? And they tell their story. But, she talked a little bit about how he handled her fame and how it was difficult. She also talked about heroin addiction and what it was like to be addicted to heroin. No romanticizing of it. But she also felt that the public looked down in particular on a woman who was going through that. If you kind of buy into, and I basically do, the idea that, an addiction is a sickness of sorts, even if the initial choice to do it isn't necessarily a sickness. But once you're in the grips of an addiction like heroin, I don't know, but I imagine it's something that's pretty hard to fight. Anyways, she was talking about how as a woman, she was treated very differently than others that have had addictions. She doesn't mention Jerry Garcia, but she certainly mentions Keith Richards and how that's kind of part of his aura and part of the kind of like stature that he has, having survived that. And not so for her. She felt that she was looked down upon and treated very differently, and didn't maybe get the help that she could have used. But very good book. Recommend it. Last Chance Texaco, and also fun to dive back into her music. I particularly, the first record's good, but the ones that I particularly like, I really enjoyed Pirates. That's a really nice record. And also really enjoy the magazine. I think I saw her on this tour. I saw her on either Pirates or the magazine. And great live performance, and just, so much going on stage in terms of the songs, lyrics, storytelling. She's a great storyteller in song, and she told good stories in between songs. So that's it. Just thought you might be interested in checking out this book. Go to your local library, and hopefully they've got it in stock. Carpe diem.